Hi, my name's Keith Cooper, Northlight Images, and in this video I'm going to address a question I was asked the other day of what makes a great print. Now, I've produced some videos recently looking at concept of print quality, what it means, how there are technical aspects to it, aesthetic aspects to it, lots more things. But people have asked me, but what goes into a good print? Well, it's very difficult to say. The technical side is the easy bit in many ways. It's the content of the print and the impact it has on people. Now, I'll cover different aspects of this and go through this and look at some example prints and show aspects of what to me makes a great print. Now, technical wise, this first one here is it's part of an old disk drive. It was produced literally just to test some aspects of macro photography, stacking. Technically, it's an excellent print, and it turned out that a couple of people wanted to use it, the image, they wanted to license the image and use it for things. So you could say, yes, it's a great print because it's achieved its objective and it's sold a copy, or sold, licensed a copy of the image. Composition wise, well, I look at it, it's fairly straightforward. It is a picture of a disk drive. The main elements of it is that there is no strong symmetry in it. Yes, there are symmetrical elements in the composition, but it's the whole lot of different bits of, here's the disc platter, here's the spindle, here's the head, here are the multiple platters. It's a technical photo. I took it partly just to test things out, but it turns out that guess what? I'm a professional photographer for years and I do have a vague idea about composition for images like this. That's hardly the sort of image that people think of when they ask of great prints. They're thinking of things you want to put up on your wall. Now, I know some people who are interested in electronics, like I have been for many years, who would happily put something like this up on the wall, but that's not the point. Let's look at something a little bit more abstract, but less technical in the photo, but also a lot of aspects of it. This one here is a picture of a credit card. Now, it's a picture of a credit card and it has two tiny little silicon chips on it. Now, the chips, the thickness of the chips is less than the raised height of the lettering on a credit card. Now, this was taken specifically for a client, the manufacturer of these chips, and they wanted to show just how small these chips were, and that gives a scale for it. Now, I provided creative input to this as to what would work. I did lots of testing of different things, but I've come up with an image that, from a commercial point of view, works. It's fairly simple. It shows how small the chips are compared to something that most people will know, the raised lettering on a credit card. Yeah, that's fair enough. That's a technical thing. Technically, that is a good print. It is sharp, it is well exposed, the image, it fits with the paper. It does its job. There must be more to that, and yes, there obviously is. I'll take as an example, and I've got written articles which cover aspects of this in more detail. Check the links for the written articles because they often have more detail and links to other related topics as well. I'll take this image here of some houses. These are relatively newly built houses here in the UK, in the East Midlands, and it's a picture of some houses like you might see in a brochure or anything. There's a pond in front of them, and it's a nice day. This was actually a job to make some prints. Now, the people who were involved in this, connected with the developers, wanted some prints that they could hang in their office. Now, this is as close as I can get to a commercial job which has actually started out saying, we want some pretty pictures to put on the wall to put in our office. Now, I've had the choice of subject matter taken for me. There were quite a few different, this is a little estate of a couple of dozen houses, and there were lots of different angles I could have took, and I've produced lots of photos, but this is one of the ones I did as a print. What went into this? Well, I need to take technically competent images, so that's in focus, properly exposed. Not the tricky part, people still get it wrong, but it's not a difficult thing. I've had to actually then go on a day where I've got the right weather. I want some cloud in the sky just to add some interest to the picture, because the picture on its own is not tremendously interesting. Even if you designed these houses, it's okay because it's an example of your work, but it's not necessarily something you want as a picture on the wall. Now, it turns out that this pond here, with the rushes in it and the water and the reflections, which I've positioned to get into the picture, this pond is part of the drainage system. So this is for water runoff during rainstorms and things. This is part of the flood management system that's put around this small estate of houses, becoming an increasingly important thing these days. So I've included this aspect of groundwater control in the picture. Now, I'm sorry it's not a truly stunning image, but it was never meant to be. I'm working with the material I've got here. So my input to this comes in the angle. I've taken it at the composition. Having the reflection here, it's overall getting a balanced image, which when it's printed out, and this was printed out at A1 size, so a very big print, that actually looks very nice. But most of that I've had, in terms of subject matter, I've had given to me. Now, when I go out and take pictures for myself, likewise, a lot of people, when they just decide to go out and take some pictures and think, you know, what have I got? What can I print? You don't have those constraints. So in a way, I picked this example because there were some easily identifiable constraints as to what went into the image. Most of the time, you simply don't have constraints like that. It's up to you. So the problem then comes, the technical stuff should be easy. It comes down to things like composition. Well, if you're unsure of your image composition, look at, and my suggestion is older photography books and old photography magazines, which you can pick up bound in bookshops, secondhand bookshops and the like. You can pick these up at charity shops for next to nothing. Go through them, look for inspiration, decide what you like, and just as importantly, decide what you don't like, because the combination of the two helps guide you into different things. What I would say is I would always recommend looking at something like books to flick through pictures rather than something like Instagram. Instagram is great for inspiration in inspiring you to take pictures that look good in Instagram. And that is but a tiny proportion of pictures. There are pictures that will look good on Instagram. There are truly stupendous images that just won't look good on Instagram. You've probably guessed from this that I had nothing to do with it. I really don't like it. It forces a style. Anyway, enough. This is not about Instagram. It's about making prints. And that in itself is entirely different as well, because Instagram, what are you looking at? A picture this size? A print? You're looking at something big, something tangible, something you look at, you can move around. It's completely different. Right, now a lot of people, when it comes to, let's say you've got some pictures and they think, well, you know, this is it. All I need to do is just print this. No, it isn't. It's a process. You need editing, all kinds of things. Ideally, some of my best prints have come about when I've been specifically thinking of printing right at the start, at the process, when I'm going out with a camera. Now, I may be, when I get somewhere, I decide this is somewhere that I really do want to make a print of. And I'm not talking commercial stuff like this. I'm talking about just my own interest of making prints that I like, ones that I hope other people like, ones I would be happy to put on the wall. I need to think print right from the start. Now, I may take lots of images, and it may be I'll go somewhere and I'll see somewhere that's a stupendous view, somewhere that looks really great, yet I simply can't capture it and convey it in a print. The best example I always have of this is visiting the Grand Canyon on a nice clear day when you can literally see 4 miles and miles. A picture of the Grand Canyon that size needs to be pretty special and probably concentrate on detail to work. The only way I can think of taking, it's been a few years since I went to the Grand Canyon, the only way I can really think of taking a picture and producing a print that does it justice is to make a print at least 10 foot long, to give some of the sheer scale. Now, you have to accept sometimes that what may seem like a great photo may not necessarily make a great print. Now, some of that comes from experience, but after a while, you get the feeling of being able to look somewhere and go, well, that is really interesting, a great view. I'm really enjoying here. I want to convey some of the emotion that I've got of this view in a print. And maybe you'll take a few snaps, you'll have a look at it and you think, no, this just doesn't work. Except that sometimes it doesn't work. Now, it may be that if you come back with completely different weather, or you try shooting it in black and white or something like that, you may find a way of actually conveying an image in a way that you want as a print. It may not be though. There may possibly just be no good photograph in the view that you've got there. I've gone all about this about photography, but surely what about modern printers? And this is just one here. This is a Canon Pro 200. I've used lots of others in all my reviews and everything, so this is not just about this at all. The great news for this is that almost any modern good quality printer can make great prints. That's the good news. The bad news is that if you can't make a great looking print with a modern decent quality printer, then I'm afraid it's your fault. If I have an image and I make something, I get a duff print, I get duff prints out. I accept that sometimes it's my fault. I test all these printers. I use test images like this to make sure that they're printing okay on a particular paper. I might change my paper style for different types of images, but when it comes down to it, modern printers are all capable of making great prints if fed a good enough quality image. And there is the problem. It's not the printer, it's you and me as well. That's where the problem is. Modern printers have got better and better. In terms of print quality, there's not been that much change. Mostly the printers have become much more usable, easier to use. But it still comes down to it. Rubbish print comes from rubbish images. Unfortunately, that's the case. No easy way around it. Well, about some ways of addressing this? Well, one of the things I like to think about is, who are the prints for? Why are you making prints? So I picked this example because I know exactly who these prints are for. I know the office that these prints have gone onto the wall. I know why they're produced. I know why the people there like the prints, because it shows their work. That's easy when I've got something like that. If it's more general, then I have to think, why am I doing these prints? Am I doing them put on my own walls? Am I doing them to sell? And I've got lots of videos covering aspects about selling prints, selling images and things as well for that, if you're curious about that side, but I'm not going to cover it here. What are you going to do with them? Who are they for? Are they gifts? Are they things you're going to sell? So what are you going to do with them? That's what it comes down to. When I mentioned image quality, you think, well, okay, if only I got a better camera, if only I got a better lens, I'd have better quality images. Well, I'm going to say no. A new camera, new lenses may inspire you to go out and take some more photos and do some more, which is a good thing. However, in themselves, the camera quality, lens quality is rarely an issue. I've just produced a video looking at taking what was essentially a 6.5 megapixel crop of an image from a 2004 camera and enlarging it up to A2. So technically, there's not that much of a difference. Now, if you're talking about going from a phone camera up to a proper bigger camera with bigger lenses, then yes. If you're looking at making prints, if you're looking at making prints of any size, phone cameras are not the way to go. The size of the sensor on them is just too small. It just doesn't work very well. Now, your cameras, doesn't need to be an expensive camera, could be a second-hand camera even. that will help, but they're not going to make the difference with prints. What does make a bit of a difference is your skill in editing, in how you process the images. To make good prints, you need to process the images for print. That means care about sharpening, about contrast, about colour management. Colour management is an important thing. Certainly you need to calibrate your screen. You need to check and use test images like this to check that your print setup is okay. You need printer profiles. All technical aspects, all easily fixable. They will make the difference between a so-so print and a better looking print. But remember, when you show prints to people, very few people see the technical problems with them. What people see in prints is almost always the content, the subject, the meaning, and that's why. Yeah, a good technical print, not so. This print here, it has, for the people in the office where they designed these houses and this flood management system, it has meaning, it has relevance. That helps make it a nice picture. The fact that I've done it on a nice day with a nice blue sky and I've got bright colours in it, that also helps. That's my input to it. But it starts that the picture is relevant to the people who are looking at the print. They don't go up to it with a hand lens and look at it from this distance and go, hang on, he hasn't got this bit quite sharp enough. They're not bothered about that. Now, turns out that this image is very sharp and makes a very good print, but that's because I knew it was required a very good print right from the start. So, editing skills, yeah. How about a better printer? Well, I've covered this many times. Any decent modern printer, A3 Plus and above, will make great looking prints. If you want to make bigger prints, then you need a bigger printer. The quality, image quality between them, the differences are going to be negligible. They may be noticeable if you put the two next to each other under good lighting, put them in two different rooms, and you won't be able to tell the difference between many modern printers. They're just that good these days. So that's one way around it. What about choice of papers? Well, yes, that does make a difference. I mean, here's a technical image that I took of a bit. Now, I had a choice of where I could stand to take this picture. I took this one to make an interesting square format picture that would make an interesting print, more so too for people who knew the building. This was used as a decorative print, much larger than this, actually in the building, or one of the parts of this building. That's what that was taken for. The idea was just make an interesting looking print of the building. You may not like this geometric style. Can't say I necessarily would want this picture on my own wall, but the developers, they loved it. For them, it was a great print. Other areas, well, I said papers choice. I've printed this particular picture here. This is Wells Cathedral, the steps at Wells Cathedral. I've printed this lots of times. This is on a fairly thick art paper. It has low contrast. I really like this image. This is a personal image. This is one I happily have on the wall. I just like the architecture. I like the style of the picture, the softness. How much is it my printing? How much is it my choice of paper? How much is it the actual subject? And the editing to bring out the texture of the stonework. It's all of those things together. But when I took the photo, I knew I was going to be making a print of it, and that's an important bit. Now, I'm going to finish off on what is actually probably the most important aspect about making great prints, and that's learning to see. Yeah, we can all see, within limits, and I'm using it in a more general term, as in appreciating the view you're seeing, what it is you want to capture of it, the structure of it, the shape, the lighting, all of those bits and pieces. And that's an evolving process. It's about becoming a better photographer. It's about, and learning to print is part of becoming a better photographer, in my view. And I've got loads of stuff I've written about these. But I finished with an image that's always been one of my favourites. I took this one years ago, in 2004. It was taken in Washington State. If you've ever used my black and white test image, you'll know the image, it's part of that. As a small sample of it is used for testing black and white prints. And I just really like this one. Now, if you're curious, and this one I knew it was going to be a print right from the start, I have a video that goes through the entire process of making this print, right from driving along, seeing the view, getting out of the car, taking a few pictures, and I show the pictures that I took at the time, how I picked which picture I wanted to use, how I processed that image, and remember this was done quite a few years ago, so there's no fancy processing in it, and then how I printed it. It's a very simple image, but often simple works, and that's just what I would call a great print. Now, I'm quite happy to accept that you may not think so. That's part of the importance of this, of having your own opinions as to what you think about stuff. Anyway, I hope this has been of some use and helps you in thinking about photography for printing, because that's the key for it. Anyway, if you've got any questions, please ask. Please do subscribe to the channel. It's much appreciated. And thanks for watching.